Welcome back, NFL fans. So I figured this would be a fun concept. It's the offseason, free agency starting soon. But right now would be a good time to reflect on my preseason predictions in the NFL, my standings predictions and playoff predictions, and see how bad they were, see what was good. Hope you guys enjoy the video, and let's get into it. So we'll start with the AFC East. I have my predictions before the season on the right, and then the actual predictions here on the left, and this was probably one of my better divisions, honestly. I got the Bills entirely correct at 11-6, first place. Patriots I had in second place, but I was one game off. I was one short of 10 wins. I had them at 9. The Dolphins I got dead on, 9-8. The Jets I was a bit higher on than I probably should have been. They were actually 4-13 this year. I had 6-11. It is what it is. They kind of beat themselves in a couple games. That's just the Jets being the Jets. But yeah, this division might have been my best one, honestly, just thinking about it. But the next division we're going over, not so good. The AFC North. This one went about as bad as I could imagine. I think I had it basically the opposite, close to it. So I had the Browns at 11-6. They were 8-9. Of course, they faced some injuries. Baker Mayfield played like crap, and it just was not expected. So I had them at 11-6. They were 8-9. I had the Ravens at 11-6 as well. They were in second. They were 8-9. They were on their way to having a good year. They were like 8-5, 8-6 at one point. They kind of fell off once Lamar got hurt, which makes sense. The Steelers I was a bit low on. I had them at 8-9, below 500. I should have known Mike Tomlin does not go below 500. He was 9-7-1 this year with the Steelers. They were second place. And the team I had in last place, which I'm sure many other people did, but still it looks bad now, the Bengals. I had them at 6-11. I think the Bengals had a pretty good year, just thinking about it. Yeah, I think the Bengals had a pretty good year. They were 10-7, may have went to the Super Bowl if I remember correctly. Yeah, they had a very good year. So I was definitely off with that one, but, they definitely had a year 2 breakout with Joe Burrow, and I think they really accelerated their rebuilding process. I don't think we expected that to happen this quickly, but it did, and congrats to the Bengals and their fans, but that was definitely not expected from me. So I had them at 6-11. I was way off, but I will definitely be higher than them next year. For the AFC South, it didn't go terrible. It was decent. I think I got the order almost correct, got it right on top at least. So I had the Titans in first at 10-7. I was 2 games off with them. I'm still surprised they were able to get 12-5 with Derrick Henry out for half the year, and Ryan Tannehill took a step back, but they still found ways to win games. The Colts I had exactly correct, 9-8. They should have been 10-7, but they lost to Jacksonville the last week, which I still can't get over. I had Jacksonville in third at 6-11. They were only 3-14, so I was higher on Jacksonville than I should have been. I figured Trevor Lawrence can get that team more wins. I figured the signing of Marvin Jones would really help them out, and it kind of did at some points, but just didn't help enough. And their defense was pretty bad, and the coaching was god-awful, as we know, with Urban Meyer, so I was wrong about that. The Texans I was pretty much on with. I had them at 3-14. They were 4-13, so still feel bad for David Culley. I don't know why he got fired and they promoted the defensive coordinator. It makes no sense to me. But anyway, this didn't go so badly. It was just I was off by a couple games in certain areas, but for the most part, the AFC South went okay. For the AFC West, it wasn't horrible, but the glaring one is the Las Vegas Raiders. I was way too low on them. I had them at 6-11. They were a 10-7 team. They won a lot of games on game-winning field goals, but still, they were a 10-win team, so I was wrong there. I had the Chiefs at 13-4. It actually was almost right, despite the Chiefs starting off like 1-4 this year, so somehow that was almost right. They probably should have had more than 13 wins, honestly, if they started out well. I had the Chargers at 9-8. That was actually correct, but I expected the Chargers to be in second place, not third place. Of course, if they won that final regular season game, they would have been 10-7, would have been in the playoffs, but they were 9-8. I had the Broncos at 8-9, and I'm assuming they'll be a lot better next year with Russell Wilson now. But anyway, they were 7-10 this year. They were in the basement of the AFC West, so I was 1 game off with the Broncos. Then the Raiders, 6-11. I was 4 games off on, so definitely was low on the Raiders. But based on how good the rest of that division is now with the quarterbacks, Mahomes and Wilson, plus the cap space that the Chargers have, I could see the Raiders having a tough year next year, so maybe I was a bit too early on that one, but we'll find out what happens in 2022. For the NFC East, I was wrong in a lot of areas here looking at this, and I should know this division the best as a Giants fan, but it did not go that way. So I had Washington at 9-8, had them in the first place with the tiebreakers and all. They were 7-10. I'm sure losing Ryan Fitzpatrick took off a couple wins for them. It wasn't like Heineke was terrible, but losing their starting quarterback in week 1 was not ideal, and their defense took a massive step back, especially the first half of the year. I did not expect that. And they signed William Jackson, so that was weird. Anyway, had the Cowboys at 9-8, second place. They were a 12-5 team. They were kind of like the Titans in a way. They were 12-5 record-wise. They just never felt like that great of a team. I actually picked the Niners to beat them in the first round. I picked the Bengals to beat the Titans in the first round or second round as well. So I never bought into those teams, but they were still 12-5. So based on the record, they were much better than what I thought they would be. The New York Giants had them at 8-9, which some people thought was a pessimistic view, and I think some Giants fans expected a 10-win season or 9-win season. The Giants were 4-13 this year. It was something I really couldn't predict. Daniel Jones missed about 6-7 games, and Joe Judge regressed as a coach. Jason Garrett didn't get much better, and the team was just injured often and was terrible. So typical Giants season there. The Eagles, I was way too low on, 5-12. They were a 9-8 team. Nick Sirianni first year. Jalen Hurts played better than I expected. Devontae Smith had a good rookie year. So yeah, they had a good season in Philly. They of course got knocked out in the first round, but they made the playoffs, which was impressive. But I was wrong in a lot of areas with this division, but at the end of the day, none of these teams were that good, let's be honest. For the NFC North, I had the order correct, but some of the records were a bit off here. I had the Packers in 10-7. I expected some regression off back-to-back 13-3 seasons. They went 13-4. I mean, they have been regular season gods since Matt LaFleur has been the coach there, so another great regular season, undefeated at home. I had the Vikings in second place, which was correct. I was one game off. I had them at 9-8. They were 8-9. They had a few really close losses this year, if I remember correctly, so they probably could have had 10 wins if things broke the right way, but that's unfortunately not what happened for them. Had the Bears at 7-10. The Bears were actually 6-11. I thought they were worse than that, so I guess that was fine, but still had them in third place. And the Lions, I mean, they kind of exceeded people's expectations, but like record-wise, they were not that good. I had them at 5-12. They were 3-13-1. So hopefully things are looking better for the Lions in the future years going forward. It seems like Dan Campbell had a successful first year for the most part, but this division went as planned. We know the Packers are the elite team. We knew the Vikings were like a tier below them or maybe 2 tiers below them. Then we knew the Bears and Lions were kind of in that rebuilding stage and new quarterbacks and all that. So yeah, I think it went pretty much as expected, but the Packers I was a bit off on, and I would say the Lions I was a bit off on as well. For the NFC South, things went pretty well here outside of the Panthers, who I was higher on than I should have been, but outside of that, it went pretty well. So I had the Buccaneers at 12-5, first place. They were 13-4 in reality. They were still in first place, of course. Had the Saints at 9-8, and they somehow still went 9-8 despite having Jameis Winston out for half the year. Their defense really stepped up. Sean Payton had a really good year coaching, but even with Trevor Siemian, they had a pretty good year in the second half. I had the Carolina Panthers at 8-9. That was the problem. The Panthers were in reality a 5-12 team. They started out 3-0, and I was like, damn, I should have had them over 8 wins. But no, they were actually terrible in the second half. One of the worst teams in football in the second half. So that did not go well. Darnold started playing like crap, got injured. Christian McCaffrey got hurt as well. So yeah, things did not go well for the Panthers there. Then I had the Atlanta Falcons at 6-11. They were a 7-10 team, so that was pretty accurate. So yeah, it was not that bad. If you just flipped the Falcons and Panthers, I was pretty much dead on here for the most part. But unfortunately, the Buccaneers could not get past the second round in the playoffs. For the NFC West, I kind of hate myself for this one because I've always been low on the Seattle Seahawks in previous years, 2018, 2019, 2020, and they always exceed my expectations. So this year I just said, screw it, I'm going to have Seattle with a good record, and of course this was the year they had a bad season. So that was unfortunate. I had the Seahawks at 11-6. They were 7-10. The Russell Wilson injury did not help, but they were still not that good of a team overall. Their defense was actually terrible. So I had them at 11-6. I had the Rams at 11-6. They were actually 12-5, the real first place team in this division. Had the Niners at 10-7. That was accurate. The Niners were actually 10-7, third place in the actual standings. Then I had the Cardinals at 9-8. They exceeded that by a couple of games. They were 11-6 this year. I had every team over 500 in this division, so I was pretty much on except for the Seahawks there. That was the one glaring bad part. But outside of that, it wasn't that bad. But Seattle may not see an 11-win season for a long time, unfortunately. So these were my AFC playoff predictions, and some things here were actually kind of accurate, but most of it was pretty bad. So the accurate part, though, I had the Patriots on the road against the Bills in the first round, which actually did happen. I had the Bills winning that game, which did happen. They won by, 50 points or something. But I had teams make it that shouldn't have made it. I had the Ravens making the playoffs, the Chargers making the playoffs. I had the Browns as a 3 seed, which is crazy. I had the Browns going to the AFC Championship game. I was way too high on them. So I did have Kansas City making it to the Super Bowl, and they probably should have this year, honestly. honestly, but Andy Reid kind of shot himself in the foot once again by not running the ball in the AFC Championship game. So the Bengals in reality made it, of course. But yeah, there were some bad parts about this. I did not have the Raiders in there. I did not have the Steelers in there. So yeah, there were a couple problems here with this playoff scenario, but I was very close to having the Kansas City Chiefs correct. So these were my NFC playoff predictions. I had the Vikings missing it, I had the Cowboys missing it, which was wrong, and I had the Cardinals missing it, which was wrong. I had Washington in the playoffs, which was wrong. And I had the Seahawks and Saints in the playoffs, which was wrong. So I had Seattle as a 2 seed. That was crazy. I guess the good news is I had the Rams making it to the Super Bowl. So, like, that's the good news about it. I think I had the Chiefs winning it because I have the trophy next to them. So I had the Chiefs winning this Super Bowl over the Rams, which in reality I guess was kind of close. As I said, the Chiefs were very close to making it, but the Rams I was pretty high on this year, so I was happy about that. I figured Tampa would get a bit further, but of course the Rams and Tampa matched up in the playoffs in the second round, so they could not get that far. I'm surprised I actually had Green Bay getting out in the divisional round. I did not expect myself to do that, but I did. It's funny, I actually had the Niners and Packers playing each other, but I had the Packers winning that matchup, but in reality that did not happen, although it was in the divisional round. So yeah, some of this was pretty bad. I think most of it was pretty bad, honestly, but at least I had the Rams going to the Super Bowl, so that's good enough. But anyway, that's going to do it for the video. Hope you guys enjoyed this fun little exercise going back in time, looking at what I got right, what I got wrong. For me, it was kind of funny. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll talk to you guys next time.